Through our energy policies, we attain the goals we signed up to in order to aid in mitigating the devastation that climate change brings with it. Well, to discuss these issues and more, I'm joined in studio by Stephen Seaka. He's the Head of Public Sector Africa at Absa Bank, and Bryce McCall from the SABC program. Thanks very much for joining us, gentlemen. Thank you. Let me start with you, Bryce. You're part of a program that looks at how we can mitigate climate change. What are some of the findings that you've found in your research? When you look at the South African Integrated Resource Plan, do you think we're doing enough?
Thank you for having me. Well, in short answer, the IRP as it is now is not going to be doing enough to mitigate against climate change. The work that we have done at the energy modelling team at the University of Cape Town is we've done a critical assessment and analysis of the IRP and the methodologies that go into it. And we've run models on our own that mimic the same methodologies as they do, and we've had a look at how renewables and coal and nuclear and gas and now storage are all going to play a role in the future. And when we compare this to the IRP, we see a lot more renewables in our results than in the IRP results, and we narrow this down to an assumption that they've used in the IRP process, where they've limited the amount of renewables that you can roll out and how quickly you can do that. What we're also seeing in our results is that basically we need to be looking at how do we complement renewables, both in gas generating power technologies and in storage, which is batteries, which globally a lot of economies are pushing towards developing those technologies, both in their efficiencies, but also in bringing down their cost, so they're more cost effective. And our analysis shows that in the long term, you're going to see less and less coal playing a role in our energy mix. And that's just if we're looking at cost only.
I was going to ask you, Bryce, before I go on to Stephen, just in terms of the battery capability that you're talking about, is that going to be a costly exercise to invest in for South Africa, as it's obviously still in its infancy?
Well, what we're seeing in globally in reports coming out is that the prices are dropping dramatically for battery technology. One thing we're also seeing is that there's also a potential niche market in South Africa to develop batteries, because we're a minerals rich country, and one of the technologies that's actually cost effective is vanadium batteries. So vanadium is a type of metal. Yes. And we see a potential new industry in South Africa to supply our own batteries for energy storage.
Okay, well, unfortunately, government's not here, so I can't ask them why aren't we on top of this already. Stephen, I've heard or read about banks actually pulling away from financing and investing in fossil fuel-based energy. Is that a trend that you're seeing internationally and even here in South Africa? And what's Absa's position on this?
So it's true that renewables are the future. You know that the government ran a huge program where banks participated, and indeed Absa took a big portion of those renewable projects. Going forward, if you look globally, people have been sort of worried about the damage of coal to the environment. You have seen some people have been doing it carefully. So when World Bank financed Eskom, they said, please include this in your power station so that we can get a better, clean coal, as it were. So if you look at Absa, we have not come to a cast in stone kind of a position, because if you look at South Africa, and let's take Eskom for instance, it's critical to the country. How do we support it going forward? Consumes 80 to 100 million tons of coal, and in terms of the new projects, there's a bit of an assessment of whether we should support them willy-nilly, or we should also ask for like a clean coal kind of a project, but no final decision on that. Okay,
gentlemen, we're going to pause as we wrap up the hour's show, right. And I'm going to hand over to my colleague Arabile Gumede.
Yeah, thank you, Nompu. Well,